and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us to 30 Days Walk, giving you a whole month's activity during the month of February as regarding the head of state's activities. Some of our highlights for today's episode: President Museveni arriving in Ethiopia for 33rd AU Summit. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu concluding visit to Uganda. And the new Deputy Attorney General swearing in before the President, and a whole lot more. Stay with us. Well, starting us off this evening, taking you through a look at the arrival of His Excellency that is in Ethiopia for the 33rd AU Summit. Well, this year's summit was being held under the theme Silencing the Guns, Creating Conducive Conditions for Africa's Development. Well, the initiative of Silencing the Guns is a flagship project of Africa's Agenda 2063, and it's aiming to achieve a conflict-free Africa, making peace a reality for all and ridding the continent of wars, civil conflicts, gender-based violence, violent conflicts, and preventing genocide. The Ethiopian Minister of Science and Higher Education, Honorable Hiruት Wald-Mariam, received President Yoweri Museveni at Abol International Airport. And still there, we did see the Ugandan Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Sam Kutesa, and State Minister of Finance for Planning and Economic Development, Honorable David Bahati, and Uganda Ambassador to Ethiopia, Rebecca Otengo, as well as her Deputy Ambassador Idule Amoko, receiving His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni at the airport in Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa. The February 9 to 10 summit did focus on peace and security in Africa, among other issues. The Assembly did review progress made and the challenges to peace, stability, and sustainable development in Africa. In addition to the key discussions around Africa's peace and security agenda, other headline issues that were discussed did include sustainable funding of Africa's development agenda, specifically addressing the scale of assessment and contribution to the AU's budget, progress made in the implementation of Agenda 2063, operationalization of the Africa Continent Free Trade Area, African candidatures in the international system, the International Criminal Court, and Africa's digital transformation strategy.
That's why, with a few presidents, President Jacob Zuma and a few others, we thought those who were angry enough, could get together, if necessary, and act in some situations. This is not new. So these few acted to implement the resolution of the bigger group. So this concept of the few who are willing and able acting to implement the bigger decision is not new. This is how we were able to get results in Southern Africa.
Well, a good wrap-up there that His Excellency did have regarding the 33rd AU Summit. Well, good discussions there that will take us forward regarding developing our economy, and not forgetting the bilateral relations that go in when such big giants do meet with bigger brains. And away from there, we see the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu concluding his visit to Uganda. Well, the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu Benjamin concluded his one-day official visit to Uganda at the invitation of President Yoweri Museveni. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu arrived in the country on Monday, 4th February 2020 during the afternoon hours, and he was accompanied by his wife Sarah Netanyahu, who were received at State House Entebbe by the president himself, that is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, together with his wife and Education and Sports Minister Janet Museveni. During his stay in the country, Prime Minister Netanyahu held bilateral discussions with President Yoweri Museveni at State House in Entebbe. We have more.
I want to welcome His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu here for visiting us again.
Israel is coming back to Africa, and Africa is coming back to Israel in a big way. But what is comforting and what is ripening is our cooperation in many, many fields. We're open to do more, including in cyber. And let me say there are two things that we want to very much to achieve, and we discussed in this visit. One is direct flights from Israel to Uganda, direct flights, because that will enable our friendship to flourish. And second, I have a simple suggestion that you'll have time to consider, Mr. President, my friend. You open an embassy in Jerusalem, I'll open an embassy in Kampala.
And if a friend says, I want your embassy here, rather than there, I don't see why it would be. We are really working on. We are studying that. About the aeroplanes, definitely we shall work on that. We have revived our airline. I would invite LR to fly direct to Uganda from Israel, maybe once a week. Even if it's once a week, it will be good enough. So we are ready to move.
Good. We shall do it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Well, we saw the president there commenting a very good comment that works for all of us as Ugandans. He did mention that Israel is coming back to Africa in a big way, and Africa has already gone back to Israel. Israel is a blessed country, and we have some things in common, not forgetting they're also good when it comes to agriculture, and agriculture back here is Uganda's backbone when it comes to our economy. So we can expect big and better relations, not forgetting having direct flights straight from Israel, touching ground right here at Entebbe Airport. Yet to see more of that. Now, bringing you back home regarding the head of state's activity, we saw him in Kabamba, where he did where he mentioned that the forces need to live in harmony with the people. We saw President Yoweri Museveni, who is the commander-in-chief of the Uganda Armed Forces, urging the Uganda People's Defense Forces to always remain highly disciplined and respect wananchi, because the population forms the pillars of the army's existence. General Museveni was delivering a lecture to 334 trainees on the transition of the colonial army to the People's Forces. The trainees were in the final phase of concluding their 6 months young officers course at the Uganda Military Academy, Kabamba in Mubende district.
The Army's responsibility entails protection of the sovereignty of the state, the people and their property, and must therefore be disciplined contrary to the kingdom armies that served the interests of their masters. This was affirmed by President Yoweri Museveni while delivering a lecture to trainees attending the Young Officers course at the Uganda Military Academy in Kabamba.
Jeshi lazima liwe na mwelekeo wake. Kabla ya ukoloni kulikuwa utawala wa kifalme hapa Uganda. There were tribal kingdoms. Na hizo hao wafalme walikuwa na majeshi. Hao majeshi yalikuwa ya fikra za kikabila. Kwa sababu hiyo walikuwa hawaina nguvu.
The president explained that kingdom armies were mainly preoccupied with tribal attachments and raiding livestock from their neighbors and had no capacity to defend the people from any external aggression. General Museveni observed that by 1900, the whole of the African continent had been colonized by Europeans except for Ethiopia. He added that on attaining independence from colonial powers, African countries made mistakes such as retaining the colonial armies. He said that the mission of the new army was to ensure that the needs of the population, that include security, prosperity, development, and health, were met. He also observed that for people to benefit and prosper, there is need to ensure that the army completely shuns bad habits like sectarianism and move along the lines of patriotism and Pan-Africanism. He pointed out that whoever is promoting sectarian tendencies in the country is an enemy of the people and their prosperity. President Museveni illustrated this point by citing the proposed buying of Ugandan maize by Zimbabwe, noting that our Ugandan market alone is not enough, necessitating a bigger market of Africa and beyond. On social and economic transformation, President Museveni informed the trainees of the urgent need for societal change, adding that this strategy can be effectively achieved through education, modern agriculture, industries, services, ICT, and democracy. Responding to some of the concerns raised by the young officers, the president assured them that a new team of legal officers has been put in place to handle issues affecting them with regard to land and property grabbed by some greedy people. On the role of the army in the Operation Wealth Creation Program, President Museveni observed that soldiers are more disciplined and patriotic and have so far done a commendable job of distributing seedlings to wananchi, curbing illegal fishing on the country's water bodies, and are currently helping in fighting the locusts' invasion. Trainee Officer Cadet Kagoya Juliet, on behalf of the Commandant of the Uganda Military Academy Kabamba, Brigadier General Charles Byarugaba, commended President Museveni for the lecture that she said was a turning point for them in their army career.
In more activities, we saw President Yoweri Museveni presiding over the swearing-in ceremony of the newly appointed Deputy Attorney General Jackson Kafunzi at a State House, Entebbe. Well, he did take oath of allegiance as Deputy Attorney General. In his brief remarks, President Yoweri Museveni congratulated Mr. Kafunzi on his new appointment, saying he deemed him as a young man and steadfast person. A good comment.
I, Kafunzi Jackson Kargaba, being appointed a Deputy Attorney General of Uganda, swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will at all times well and truly serve the Republic of Uganda in the office of the Attorney General, and that I will support, uphold the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda as by law established, and that I will, at the best of my judgment, at all times, when required, freely give my counsel and advice to the President of the Republic of Uganda and his successors in office as by law established for the good management of the public affairs of the Republic of Uganda. So help me God.
I congratulate Jackson Kafunzi on his swearing in. I had nominated him as Deputy Attorney General because he's one of the young people who has been very steadfast in the movement, and he's a lawyer, and I thought he would help in that front line. We, the Bagurusi, we, the old people, fought to the other wars. The wars of dictatorship, of backwardness. But now there's the new war, which is not all that difficult, but it just needs integrity. This is the war of corruption in the legal system. One form of corruption is the state attorneys and the prosecutors allowing criminals to escape. That is the form of corruption which is assisted by the judiciary from the side of the state attorneys and the prosecutors. The other form of corruption is compensation. How can somebody claim billions for 2 acres? How? I know many Ugandans have given up the idea of going to heaven. That one, men have given up. They are determined to go to hell. But at least they cannot kill our country. So these people they are as if they are enemies of their country because of greed, of wanting things for which they have not worked. So this is the office which is on the front line now.
Highlights are President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and Omukama Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru of Toro Kingdom will co-host the first ever World Monarchs Summit that is slated to take place in Toro Kingdom in September this year. The summit is expected to bring together the world's reigning sovereign, constitutional and hereditary monarchs, including kings, queens, emirs, emperors, grand dukes, princesses and sultans, among others, to interface with the wider strategic stakeholders in order to share experiences and support initiatives that are geared towards inclusive development. This was disclosed during a meeting between the president and Omukama Oyo, who called on him earlier this month at State House in Entebbe. The first World Monarch Summit will run under the theme Monarchs for Sustainable Peace and Inclusive Development.
His Highness Omukama Oyo came up with an idea of a summit of kings of the world. Some of the kings are called heads of state, and they are called sovereign. Others are kings but not heads of state, and they are called non-sovereign. I can give you the details, but when he brought up the idea, I supported it, and we co-signed documents inviting quite a number of people. He will tell you the numbers. You know very well the attitude of the NRM on the issue of traditional leadership. Right from the beginning, we said modernity can coexist with traditional leadership if it is well handled. And that's what we did here. And therefore, I had no difficulty in associating myself with the efforts of His Highness.
First of all, I'd like to thank His Excellency the President for co-hosting this first ever World Monarch Summit, which will be happening from the 7th to 11th of September of this year. Now, the whole point of having this summit is for the world monarchs to get together and to discuss about global peace and development, as well as also security. And His Excellency, when I brought this idea to him, he liked it very, very much, and this is why he's co-hosting it with me. So I'd like to thank His Excellency for accepting to co-host this first ever World Monarch Summit in September in Toro Kingdom.
We are looking forward to host these kings and queens and other cultural leaders who are coming in September. And I want to congratulate the king in advance, because we'll be having 25 years since he was a king of Toro. As you all know, Ugandans, that the king was a king when he was 3 years old. And now we are feeling that the king this will be his age to enjoy and celebrate with Batoro and Ugandans. I want to thank His Excellency for educating our king, for all the support he always gives us as Batoro and Ugandans, especially our family, the monarch.
Good to know you're still a part of this episode of 30 Days Walk. If you've just joined us, we're giving you highlights of the head of state activities for the entire month of February. And there we did see the swearing in of the new Attorney General Jackson Kafuzi, as well as the Israeli Premier Netanyahu Benjamin visiting us. Great bilateral talks right there. We can expect the best, and not forgetting having a direct flight from Israel to Uganda. How good it would be. But when I return, I look at what transpired at Katuna as His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was meeting his fellow counterparts. Do stay.
Between 1986 and 2015, the economy grew at an annual average rate of 6.9%, 6.92, while per capita income grew at an annual average rate of 3.6% over the same period. No European country, not even the United States, except West Germany, between 1950 and 1980, which was able to do 3.8%, has grown its per capita income at the same rate as Uganda over a period of 3 decades. Thank His Grace the Archbishop of Canterbury for agreeing to come to attend our function, for responding positively to my invitation on the instigation of the church.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, while receiving the Archbishop of Canterbury at State House Entebbe, reiterated that it is time to be open about the coronavirus, whose epicenter is in the Chinese city of Wuhan, capital city of central China's Hubei province. The virus has now been detected only in Egypt and Algeria on the African continent.
There is a disease called corona. This disease is spreading all over the world. It doesn't kill so much, because Ebola was killing more. Because they say 80,000 people have been infected, but only 2,000 have died. Not too bad. But it spreads very fast. Fortunately, it has not shown up here, although I hear that it has been found in Nigeria.
It has caused deaths in Europe and in some parts of Middle East.
Don't shake hands. I don't know why people like to shake hands. I cannot understand. But don't shake hands. Even I missed the hand of His Grace the Archbishop. When he came, I said, please, you will bless me another time, but for now.
The visiting head of the Anglican community in the world is in Uganda to attend the consecration of the 9th Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, the Most Reverend Samuel Stephen Kazimba Mugalu, that is slated to take place at St. Paul's Cathedral, Namirembe in Kampala on Sunday, 1st March 2020. The president briefed the World Anglican Church community leader on a number of challenges that Uganda is facing, with particular reference to the refugees from neighboring South Sudan. Archbishop Welby thanked President Museveni for inviting him to Uganda.
First of all, Your Excellency, I will say thank you to you and your wife for this very wonderful invitation today, and for the privilege of being back in a country that I first visited 46 years ago, 1974, and have been, I think this is my 6th visit or 7th. And it's a great privilege to be back in Uganda.
Archbishop Welby paid tribute to President Museveni for hosting refugees from South Sudan, saying that the numbers were extreme. He also revealed that the Anglican Church would plant 100 million trees globally over the next 5 years as part of its contribution to environmental protection.
I appreciate profoundly the change and the development in Uganda after 15 years of terrible times in the 70s and early 80s. And I pray that this weekend will be one of joy.
President Museveni and the First Lady, Mrs. Janet Kataha Museveni, later hosted Archbishop Welby and his delegation to a luncheon that was attended, among others, by the Parliamentary Speaker, the Right Honourable Rebecca Litwala Kadaga.
It is 30 days walk. Welcome on board once again. Now, what transpired at Katuna, the 4th quadripartite summit of the heads of state of Uganda, that is Rwanda, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, did end at the Uganda-Rwanda border point of Katuna, with Uganda and Rwanda signing an extradition treaty in line with the 3rd quadripartite summit, which was held in Luanda, Angola recently. Now, we saw the Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa signing the treaty on behalf of Uganda, while Rwandan counterpart Mr. Vincent Biruta signed on behalf of Rwanda. The extradition treaty constitutes, among others, the legal framework to handle cases of justice, including those related to subversive activities practiced by either of the two countries' nationals in the territory of the other party.
As agreed at the third quadripartite summit of Luanda, and at the invitation of His Excellency João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, the fourth quadripartite summit took place in Gatuna, Katuna on the 21st February 2020 and was attended by Their Excellencies Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, and Felix Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo, President of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The head of states noted that since their last meeting, progress was registered regarding the commitment of the two parties to do everything they can to eliminate the tension factors. In this regard, the release of prisoners from both sides and the guarantee to continue this process in observance of the rule of law and the international humanitarian law were welcomed. The heads of states of the Republic of Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo welcomed the signing of the extradition treaty that took place today in the framework of the quadripartite summit between the Republic of Rwanda and the Republic of Uganda, which constitutes the legal framework to handle cases of justice, including those related to alleged subversive activities practiced by their nationals in the territory of the other party. The summit recommended that the Republic of Uganda should, within 1 month, verify the allegations of the Republic of Rwanda about actions from its territory by force hostile to the government of Rwanda. If these allegations are proved, the Ugandan government will take all measures to stop it and prevent it from happening again. These actions must be verified and confirmed by the ad hoc ministerial committee for the implementation of the Memorandum of Understanding of Luanda. Once this recommendation is fulfilled and reported to the heads of states, the facilitators will convene within 15 days a summit in Gatuna, Katuna for the solemn reopening of borders and subsequent normalization of the relations between the two countries. Their Excellencies Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, and Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, once again praised the dedication and entire availability of His Excellency João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola, and His Excellency Felix Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo, President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the search for a peaceful solution in the framework of reconciliation process between the two sister countries, done at Gatuna, Katuna on 21st February 2020.
Excelências, pedimos a vossa especial atenção para
In more activities regarding the head of state, we saw President Yoweri Museveni directing the Ministry of Health to conduct an aggressive public awareness campaign as one of the measures of preventing and controlling the outbreak of coronavirus. President Yoweri Museveni was meeting government officials to discuss contagious measures and Uganda's preparedness to prevent coronavirus that is currently ravaging China and is spreading to other countries. They also discussed the impending locust invasion threat that is currently ravaging the neighboring Kenya. In more developments and promotions of having a good country, President Yoweri Museveni did urge African water leaders to deal with water issues in a holistic manner so as to create long-lasting and effective global solutions to water challenges and threats. Well, the president made these remarks during the 20th African Water Association International Congress and exhibition that took place at Kampala Serena International Conference Center. We happened to be there and we bring you the highlights.
I have to stay home to fetch water. But where is the water? Where is the water? And you, I'm in my menstruation days. I need water. So you're a woman too. I guess you know. Of course I know. You compete with the cows, the sheep, the goats for water.
African Water Association, AFWA, is a professional association of establishments, enterprises and utilities operating in the areas of drinking water, sanitation and environment in Africa, with over 100 utilities from over 40 countries across Africa. It holds an international congress and exhibition every 2 years to enhance the exchange of ideas and recent developments in the sectors of water and sanitation. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who launched the Sustaining High Performance Public Enterprises book, written by Dr. Silva Mugisha, the new president of AFWA, noted that one of the efforts necessary for water development and sustainability was the need to rightfully preserve that resource.
I can think of 5 necessary efforts for water. Number 1, preserve the water. This is number 1. To preserve the fresh water we have. Because water is life, but in order to use it, you must preserve it first.
He further noted that for water preservation to be done right, there was a need for the African society to metamorphose from a primitive subsistence agriculture, which made peasants encroach on wetlands as they looked for more land to embrace industrialization. Regarding the issue of increasing water in Africa, President Museveni noted that there was a need to embrace advanced levels of technology in order to intensify the efforts of removing salt from seawater to supply it at a low cost.
Increase the amount of water. I don't know how far the technology of desalination has gone, because we need to intensify that effort to lower the costs of removing salt from the seawater so that it can be used.
State Minister for Water, Honorable Ronald Chibule, said that Uganda's hosting of the Congress was a clear indication of the country's tremendous achievements in the water sector. He expressed happiness to note that Uganda earns 3 billion shillings every year from offering water consultative services to some African countries on account of the country's success in water management.
First, they came to benchmark. Benchmarking did not work, so they opted to hire our services. Tanzania, Kenya, Nigeria, and many other African countries. Out of this, we get about 3 billion every year from external services out of our performance.
"30 Days Walk," giving you activities of the entire month of February. We saw President Yoweri Museveni contributing 80 million Uganda shillings to the needy students scheme at Mukono Best Uganda Christian University so as to support students in that institution who cannot manage to meet their education requirements. Uganda Christian University has therefore staged a marathon race as part of the fundraising drive towards the needy students scheme. Uganda Christian University has a total student population of 13,000, of whom 3,000 are non-resident and who need financial assistance to ensure that they obtain a university education.
Uganda Christian University has a total student population of 13,000, out of whom 3,000 are non-resident and who need financial assistance to ensure that they obtain a university education. The president contributed 80 million shillings to the UCU's Needy Student Scheme.
I will put in 80 million shillings. I had brought 30, so that means I remain with a banja of 50.
President Museveni commended the student community yesterday at their UCU campus for their support and subscription to the National Resistance Movement.
And I thank the students of Mukono for supporting NRM.
Mr. Museveni revealed that private universities now qualify for government intervention in terms of financial support because they have incorporated the teaching of science subjects, which is in line with the NRM government's policy for both education and health sectors.
Now, that was the NRM strategy on education. We had government universities. In fact, a government university, it was only one. Then we started expanding the government universities by starting the one of Mbarara, and then Chambogo, and then Moobs and so on. But at the same time, we licensed private universities.
Regarding the request to government by UCU Guild President to construct Bishop Tucker Road from Mukono Town to the university campus, the president said that the standard access road should be constructed because it serves to publicize the university.
On the issue of the road, I totally agree. When I was coming here, the face was not good, because it is part of publicizing your university. For somebody to come on a good road and branching.
While the parliamentary speaker, the Right Honourable Rebecca Litwala Kadaga, observed
reduction or exemption of taxes for private universities that cause a high cost of tuition, hence making it impossible for some of the children to study.
That it was not a good idea to levy taxes on educational institutions. UCU Vice Chancellor Reverend Dr. John Senyonyi commended the government for the continued financial support to the university.
Well, as we wind up activities there for the month of February, we saw His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni opening an international conference on the implementation of land information systems. He called on land policy experts to plan for a multi-dimensional economy based on all sectors of the economy, citing agriculture, industry, ICT, and services, among others, that will have an impact on the country's growth and development. The President made those various remarks during the opening of the international conference on the implementation of the land information systems at Protea Hotel in Entebbe.
Uganda has about 240,000 square miles of land, of which about 48,000 square miles have registerable interests, while 80% is not registered land.
To register their communal land. Yeah, this one we live for now. Yeah, that one we don't have.
Most of Uganda's land is under subsistence agriculture. While officiating at the international conference on the implementation of land information systems, President Yoweri Museveni directed Lands Ministry to advocate for a multi-sectoral land use plan.
So therefore the question you should answer is, how can the land we have, the 240,000 square kilometers, be managed in order to deal with these forms of wealth? Africa is beginning to jump on the historical bus and jumping on it with the 4 sectors: commercial, agriculture, industry, services, and ICT, with the infrastructure linking them.
The President lauded the World Bank for supporting Uganda in digitalizing the land records.
Now, I want to congratulate the World Bank for helping in the computerization, because this one deals with record keeping. But what records are you keeping? You must answer that original question. Are you keeping healthy records, or are you keeping the records of land fragmentation?
The senior private sector specialist representing the World Bank, Moses Chibirige, asked the ministry to strengthen property and land rights.
Establishment of a land information system in the digital era today is extremely important. Governance is important because of corruption. Security of ownership is important. Time is money. How long does it take you to register your land, and at what cost? Record keeping is very, very important.
The Minister of Lands, Betty Kamya, says now with computerization of the land records, the public should rely on the Land Ministry for effective land services.
Your Excellency, indeed, you have given Ugandans faith and hope that sooner than later, the demons that have afflicted the land sector in Uganda will be soon be demystified and cast out of Uganda.
Uganda had its first survey in 1904, but despite computerization, the system is still marred with inconsistencies.
It's been a pleasure having your company, giving you highlights and activities regarding the head of state, that is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Well, this has been an edition covering all his activities regarding the month of February. 30 Days comes to you every last Saturday of every month. So be sure to join us once again as we give you more highlights and activities of what is happening around your nation. My name is Sandra Kamde.